The sound of shattering ceramic echoed through the cafe as Ellie's trembling hands lost their grip on the coffee pot. She stood frozen, watching her manager's face transform from irritation to cold resolve. In that moment, she knew her life was about to change forever, but she couldn't have imagined how a stranger sitting quietly in the corner would rewrite her entire future. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming content that reminds us all of the unexpected ways our lives can change in an instant. Ellie Matthews had been working at Rosewood Café for 3 years, 4 months, and 17 days. Not that she was counting, except she absolutely was. Each shift represented another small deposit toward her daughter Lily's college fund, another step toward the stable life she'd promised to provide after her husband walked out 2 years ago. The cafe sat on the corner of Main and Elm in the small town of Millfield, its windows perpetually fogged with steam from the espresso machine and the breath of locals seeking refuge from the bitter December cold. Christmas Eve had brought a dusting of snow that clung to the windowpanes like powdered sugar, transforming the ordinary cafe into something from a holiday card. Ellie had been on her feet since 5 that morning, her back aching as she navigated between tables with practiced efficiency. Her Santa hat, mandatory according to cafe owner Margaret Winters, kept slipping down over her eyes, but she'd managed to maintain her smile through the holiday rush. The afternoon lull had finally arrived, leaving only a handful of customers nursing their drinks and avoiding the last-minute shopping frenzy outside. In the corner sat a man Ellie had noticed several times over the past few weeks. He always ordered the same thing, black coffee and a slice of apple pie, and always sat at the same table, the one with the view of both the street and the entire cafe. Today, his daughter was with him, a girl about 10 years old with a book propped open against the sugar dispenser. Ellie had overheard them talking about spending Christmas together, just the two of them. Something in their quiet conversation had tugged at her heart, a recognition of the delicate balance of single parenthood she knew all too well. "Ellie, my office. Now." Margaret's voice cut through her thoughts, sharp as a knife against porcelain. The walk to the small back office felt like crossing an ocean. Margaret Winters had inherited the cafe from her father 15 years ago and ran it with ruthless efficiency. Her perfectly highlighted bob never moved, even in the winter wind, and her smile appeared only for customers who ordered the most expensive items on the menu. "Close the door," Margaret said, not looking up from her computer screen. Ellie's stomach twisted as she obeyed, her mind racing through possible infractions. Had she forgotten to restock the pastry case? Had a customer complained about their order? "I've been reviewing our staffing needs for the coming year," Margaret began, finally meeting Ellie's eyes with a gaze as cold as the snow outside. "And I've decided to make some changes." The words that followed blurred together in Ellie's mind. Restructuring, cutting hours, more experienced staff, holiday season ending, last paycheck, today will be your final shift. "But it's Christmas Eve," Ellie heard herself say, the words sounding distant and hollow. "Which means we'll be closed tomorrow, making this the cleanest break possible," Margaret replied, sliding an envelope across the desk. 2 weeks severance. "I suggest you use the time to find something more suitable to your capabilities." The dismissal in her tone was unmistakable. Ellie took the envelope with numb fingers, her mind racing to calculations of rent, utilities, groceries, and Lily's asthma medication. 2 weeks wouldn't cover even half of it. "I need this job, Margaret. Lily and I." "Your personal situation isn't the cafe's concern," Margaret interrupted. "You can finish your shift or leave now. Your choice." Pride warred with practicality in Ellie's chest. She needed every hour of pay she could get, but the thought of serving customers with a smile while her world collapsed around her seemed impossible. "I'll finish the shift," she finally said, her voice steadier than she felt. Margaret nodded once, already turning back to her computer. "Don't mention this to the customers. I don't want a scene disrupting the holiday atmosphere." Ellie walked out of the office in a daze, the weight of uncertainty pressing against her chest until breathing became a conscious effort. She made it to the coffee station before the first tear escaped, quickly wiped away with the back of her hand. She couldn't cry. Not here. Not now. She reached for the coffee pot to refill the man's cup in the corner, her thoughts so scattered she didn't notice the crack in the handle until it was too late. The pot slipped from her grasp, shattering against the floor in an explosion of ceramic and hot coffee. The cafe fell silent. Every head turned toward the sound, including Margaret's, who emerged from her office with thunder in her expression. "I'm sorry," Ellie whispered, already dropping to her knees to clean up the mess, uncaring as the hot liquid soaked through her uniform pants. "Just go," Margaret hissed, quiet enough that only Ellie could hear. "You're done here." Ellie looked up, meeting her former boss's eyes. "But my shift is over. Take your things and leave. Now." The humiliation burned hotter than the coffee seeping into her skin. Ellie rose slowly, aware of every eye in the cafe watching her walk to the back room where her coat and purse waited. Her fingers trembled as she untied her apron, folded it neatly out of habit, and placed it on the hook where it had hung every day for over 3 years. When she emerged, Margaret was already sweeping up the broken pot, her movements sharp with irritation. Ellie kept her eyes down as she walked toward the door, dignity the only thing she had left to hold on to. "Excuse me." The voice came from the corner table. The man with the apple pie had stood up, his daughter watching with wide eyes beside him. "Is everything all right here?" he asked, his voice carrying easily through the hushed cafe. Margaret's customer service smile appeared instantly. "Just a little accident. Nothing to worry about." The man nodded slowly, his eyes moving between Margaret and Ellie. "I couldn't help but overhear. You're firing her? On Christmas Eve?" Ellie wanted to disappear. This well-meaning stranger was only making things worse. "Sir, this is a private employment matter," Margaret said, her smile thinning. "I understand," he replied, reaching for his wallet. "In that case, I'd like to pay my bill and leave." "Of course," Margaret said, relief evident in her voice. But the man wasn't finished. He turned to address the entire cafe, his voice calm but carrying authority that made everyone listen. "I've been coming here for weeks, watching how this young woman works. She remembers everyone's orders, brings extra napkins before they're asked for, and somehow manages to make every person feel welcome." He looked directly at Ellie now. "And I just watched her get fired on Christmas Eve for dropping a coffee pot." The cafe remained silent, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. "My name is Daniel Harrington," he continued. "I moved to Millfield 2 months ago to open a new restaurant on Maple Street. The building is ready, the kitchen is equipped, but I've been struggling to find the right staff." He smiled at Ellie. "Until now." Ellie blinked, certain she had misheard. "I'm sorry. I need a front-of-house manager who understands customer service and can handle pressure with grace. Based on what I've seen, you're exactly who I've been looking for." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, offering it to her. "If you're interested, the job is yours. Better hours, better pay, and I promise, no one gets fired on Christmas Eve." The card felt impossibly heavy in Ellie's hand. "Harrington's Fine Dining," it read, with an address and phone number beneath. I don't know what to say," she stammered. Daniel smiled. "Say you'll think about it. And maybe join my daughter Sophie and me for dinner tonight? We were planning to order pizza and watch Christmas movies, but we'd love the company." Behind him, Sophie nodded enthusiastically, her book forgotten on the table. Margaret cleared her throat loudly. "If you're quite finished disrupting my business, Mr. Harrington." Daniel turned to her with a polite smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Actually, I'm not. I'd like to speak to everyone here." He addressed the cafe again. "My restaurant opens January 15th. Anyone who was enjoying Ellie's service today is welcome to come by for a complimentary meal during our first week. I believe in rewarding loyalty, to customers and to staff. With that, he left money on the table, helped his daughter into her coat, and walked to Ellie's side. Ready to go? Ellie looked around the cafe one last time, at the place that had been her lifeline and now represented only rejection. Then she looked at Daniel and Sophie, two strangers offering kindness when she needed it most. Yes, she said, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. I'm ready. As they stepped out into the gently falling snow, Ellie felt something she hadn't experienced in years, hope, unexpected and fragile, like the first green shoot after a long winter. The walk to Daniel's house was short but revelatory. Sophie skipped ahead, occasionally stopping to catch snowflakes on her tongue, while Daniel explained his vision for the restaurant. I was a chef in Chicago for 15 years, he told Ellie. After my wife died 3 years ago, the city felt too big, too empty. Sophie and I needed a fresh start. I'm sorry about your wife, Ellie said softly. Daniel nodded, his expression momentarily distant. Cancer. It was quick, which the doctor said was a blessing, but it didn't feel that way. He shook his head slightly. Anyway, I decided to use the insurance money to open my own place, somewhere Sophie could put down roots. Millfield seemed perfect. It's a good town, Ellie agreed. Small enough to know your neighbors, big enough that not everyone knows your business. She hesitated. Usually, anyway. Daniel laughed. Well, after my performance back there, I think we can safely say that ship has sailed for both of us. His house was a modest 2-story on Maple Street, just 2 blocks from the cafe. Inside, it was warm and smelled of cinnamon and pine from the Christmas tree standing in the corner of the living room, decorated with a charming mix of store-bought ornaments and handmade crafts. Dad lets me put the star on top, Sophie informed Ellie proudly. Even though I needed the step ladder this year. It's beautiful, Ellie said sincerely. My daughter Lily and I have a much smaller tree in our apartment. Sophie's eyes widened. You have a daughter? How old is she? She's 8. She's with my mother tonight so I could work the late shift. Ellie checked her watch. I should call them, actually. Let them know I'll be picking Lily up earlier than planned. Daniel showed her to the kitchen phone, giving her privacy while he and Sophie debated pizza toppings in the living room. Ellie dialed her mother's number, bracing herself for the conversation ahead. Mom? It's me. Ellie? Is everything all right? You're not supposed to be done for hours. Ellie took a deep breath. I lost my job today. The silence on the other end spoke volumes. Her mother, a widow who had raised 3 children on a teacher's salary, understood exactly what those words meant. Oh, sweetheart. What happened? Margaret decided to restructure, Ellie said, unable to keep the bitterness from her voice. But something else happened too. I might have another job already. She explained about Daniel and his restaurant, aware of how improbable it all sounded. Her mother, ever practical, asked the questions Ellie herself had been too stunned to consider. Is this legitimate? Do you know anything about this man? What kind of salary are we talking about? I don't know all the details yet, Ellie admitted. But Mom, you should have seen him stand up to Margaret. No one does that. Her mother sighed. Just be careful, Ellie. If something sounds too good to be true. I know. I'll be careful. She glanced toward the living room, where Sophie was now showing Daniel a drawing. I'm going to stay for dinner and talk more about the position. Can Lily stay with you a bit longer? Of course. She's already in her pajamas, watching that Christmas movie with the talking snowman for the 3rd time. Take your time. After hanging up, Ellie rejoined Daniel and Sophie, who had settled on half pepperoni, half vegetable pizza. Everything okay? Daniel asked. Yes, thank you. My mother's watching Lily tonight. Sophie bounced on her toes. Can Lily come over sometime? I don't have many friends here yet. Sophie, Daniel said gently, let's not overwhelm Ellie all at once. It's okay, Ellie assured him. And yes, Sophie, I'm sure Lily would love to meet you. She's a little shy at first, but she warms up quickly. While they waited for the pizza to arrive, Daniel gave Ellie a more detailed explanation of the restaurant and the position he was offering. It's not just front-of-house manager, he clarified. You'd essentially be my partner in running the place. I handle the kitchen, you handle everything else. Menu planning, staff scheduling, customer relations, even some of the bookkeeping if you're comfortable with that. Ellie's head spun. That's a lot more responsibility than I had at the cafe. With compensation to match, Daniel said. I'm offering $60,000 a year to start, with a performance-based raise after 6 months, plus health insurance and 2 weeks paid vacation. The figure made Ellie's breath catch. It was more than double what she'd been making at Rosewood. Why me? She asked finally. You don't even know me. Daniel considered her question seriously. I've been watching you work for weeks. You handle difficult customers with patience. You remember people's preferences without being asked. You notice when someone's cup is empty before they do. He shrugged. Those aren't skills you can teach. Either someone has that awareness or they don't. But I have no experience managing a restaurant. The technical parts can be learned. The instinct for hospitality can't. He leaned forward. Look, I'm not offering this job out of pity or because of the holidays. I'm offering it because I believe you're the right person for it. Before Ellie could respond, the doorbell rang, announcing the arrival of their pizza. The conversation shifted to lighter topics as they ate: Sophie's school, Ellie's stories about Lily, Daniel's adventures in recipe testing. Dad makes me try everything, Sophie confided. Even the weird stuff with mushrooms. Especially the weird stuff with mushrooms, Daniel corrected with a grin. How else will you develop a sophisticated palate? I'd rather develop a sophisticated sweet tooth, Sophie replied, making Ellie laugh. After dinner, Sophie insisted on showing Ellie her room, proudly displaying her collection of books and the science project she was working on for after the holiday break. It's about how different liquids freeze at different rates, she explained. Dad's letting me use the kitchen for experiments. That sounds fascinating, Ellie said sincerely. Lily loves science too. She's been saving bugs in our freezer to examine under her microscope. Sophie's eyes lit up. She has a microscope? That's so cool. When they returned downstairs, Daniel had made hot chocolate and was sitting by the fireplace, looking thoughtful. Sophie, it's time for your shower before the movie, he said. Sophie groaned but complied after extracting a promise that they wouldn't start The Muppet Christmas Carol without her. Once they were alone, Daniel turned to Ellie. I realize I've put you in an awkward position. You don't know me, and I'm offering you a job that must seem too good to be true. Ellie appreciated his directness. It does seem that way, she admitted. My mother already warned me to be careful. Smart woman, Daniel said with a nod. So let me make this more concrete. I'd like you to come see the restaurant tomorrow, Christmas Day, I know, but just for an hour. I'll show you the space, the business plan, everything. Bring your mother and Lily if that makes you more comfortable. Then take a few days to think about it. You'd do that? Open on Christmas? For the right staff member? Absolutely. He hesitated. There's something else. The apartment above the restaurant comes with the position. 2 bedrooms, utilities included. It's nothing fancy, but it's clean and well maintained. Ellie stared at him, speechless. Her current apartment ate nearly half her monthly.